Internet. This is DTNS Live for Tuesday, February 18th, 2025. From Studio Animal House, I'm Sarah Lane.
From Studio 7 in Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
From Columbus, Ohio, I'm Robb Dunewood.
And I'm the show's producer, Roger Chang.
Daily Tech News Show Live is made possible by you. Thank you, Pele Glendale, Tim Deputy, Brandon Brooks, and a new patron named Harm. Well, we shall welcome
we got to clap. We got to clap for Harm.
Yes.
Clap for Harm.
Clap for Harm. This time. Yeah.
Pretty fun.
Thank you, Harm.
That could be short for Harmony.
Right?
Or Harmon or something like that. That could be a nickname.
Definitely. Whatever it's short for, we're happy to have you. Thank you.
We really are. And welcome to all of you to DTNS Live. This is the show where we discuss the tech news to help us all understand it a little better because we're all doing it together. Now, I'd ask everyone how they're doing, but Tom, I noticed that you slipped in a new studio name.
Yes. Seven the dog has graduated. The place where he went to training changed their name, so he is officially the first graduate under the new name from Paw House Academy.
So cute.
Nice.
So he is back with us during the day now, and having to learn that all those things that he learned, he still has to do them here too.
Well,
yeah,
now
and it's house like H-A-U-S, so very Scandinavian of you.
House.
Yeah.
So how long are you giving Seven before he's got to go out and find a job?
I don't know. End of day.
I think the sooner the better.
Yeah, pay for your. It's time for you to.
You're out of school, buddy. Yeah, totally.
I mean, Roger, your kids got to get jobs pretty soon too, right?
They sell Girl Scout cookies, except it goes back to the organization and not to me.
Yeah, it's a job you don't get paid for.
But you
get a lot of happiness from people eating.
Yeah, right. I had 4 trefoils this morning. Those are a Girl Scout cookie. If you don't know what they are, they're not like made of aluminum.
I have to be careful.
You go eat an aluminum tree, Tom. Stop that.
I got to be careful not to eat the supply. It's really bad.
Don't get.
Yeah, there's a joke in there somewhere. I don't know, but what we are all here for, indeed, and we did have Monday off for President's Day holiday in the U.S., but we're all here today, so let's start with the quick hits.
xAI released its Grok 3 family of models. The Grok 3 reasoning model includes chain-of-thought reasoning, and a feature called Deep Search is an agent that can do research, similar to OpenAI and Google's Deep Research. Grok is available to X Premium Plus subscribers with a Super Grok plan offering additional features. xAI plans to open source Grok 2 once Grok 3 is fully mature. And Premium Plus got something as well, a price rise. That subscription is now $50 a month or $395 a year. They raised the price to $22 a month back in December. So that is a $28 per month price rise that goes along with the launch of Grok 3.
In an interview with The Telegraph, Acer CEO Jason Chen says the company will probably increase U.S. laptop prices by 10% starting in March due to the new U.S. tariffs on Chinese imports. So a model like the Acer Predator Triton could rise in price from $3,799 to $4,178. Acer is exploring supply chains outside China, including the U.S. production. The Consumer Technology Association warns that tariffs, at least as they stand now, could cost U.S. consumers $143 billion collectively.
Blue Sky introduced a followers-only reply option and a search post feature in its latest update for profiles, giving users more control over what their feeds look like and search functionality, something that competitors like X and Threads don't offer yet, not at least in this way. Users can adjust this in settings, and the update, which is part of version 1.98, also includes minor improvements.
TikTok Shop outperformed Shein and Temu in U.S. sales in January, according to Bloomberg's second measure, which analyzes credit and debit card data to get their numbers. Sales through TikTok Shop increased by 153%, which, it's brand new, so it's going to get big numbers like that. Shein and Temu reported growth of 26 and 28%, respectively. TikTok's in-app shopping feature launched in 2023, so it's only been around for 2 years, and has had particular success with transactions above $25. Shein used to be the one leading that particular category.
Huawei launched its trifold smartphone, the Mate XT, outside China on Tuesday with a starting price of €3,499 or $3,660, looking to regain global market share after U.S. sanctions severely impacted its sales. I don't know if it's going to do with the $3,700 phone, though. Huawei hasn't officially announced which countries the Mate XT will be available in yet, but CNBC notes the device is now listed for sale in Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. The phone is the world's first trifold device, but doesn't run Google's Android OS, which may limit its appeal.
Meta announced a new generative AI developer conference, LlamaCon, set for April 29th to showcase advancements in the company's open source Llama AI models. The company says it will invest $60 to $65 billion in AI infrastructure this year. Meta faces competition, though. It's not the only game in town, most recently from Chinese AI firm DeepSeek, and challenges related to copyright lawsuits and EU data privacy regulations. The Verge notes that a Waymo subscriber program could be in the works. Also noting that the rideshare guys, Harry Campbell, got a hold of a survey asking some customers, I'm a Waymo customer, I did not get the survey, about a potential Waymo membership program with potential perks like getting cash back, discounts on future rides if you're a subscriber who pays monthly or annually. The monthly plans could cost anywhere between $10 to $30. That's at least, the going report at this point. Waymo only operating in a few cities. A lot of you out there are like, yeah, you guys talk about Waymo. I've never seen a Waymo. I don't know how to ride in a Waymo. I don't live anywhere near where Waymo operates, but obviously the company is hoping to expand on that, which would lead some people to say, a membership program? Are they ready for this yet? Not really knowing how people use Waymos in a larger, global setting, just in a few cities. Also, unlike Uber, Waymo doesn't do anything but give you a ride. You've got your ghost driver rather, but it's not going to bring you food. Waymo isn't there yet. So I wanted to ask the crew, what do we think? In what situation do you think that a subscription model for something like rides, maybe it's just rides, maybe you do a lot of traveling, you go to the airport all the time, you just, it makes sense for you to pay for something like Uber One, or you get a lot of food delivery. That would be me, which also kind of makes sense to pay for something like Uber One. Lyft Pink has their own version of this, but what do we all pay for? And when does a subscription become less of a, ooh, they're trying to, gouge me, and more of like it actually makes sense?
Yeah, I think a lot of people fall into the assumption that, oh, I only do ride-hailing services when I travel, right? I need to go to the airport. I need to come from the airport at the place I went. Maybe I'll go a few places while I'm on vacation and not rent a car and use Uber or Lyft for that, or Kakao Taxi or whatever, right? I don't think that's what this is for. I think this is for seeing how many people take advantage of a subscription program. Because remember, Waymo's not a business yet. So it's not trying to compete with Uber. It's actually partnering with Uber and trying to figure out its business model. This is a way to gather data and figure out that business model. But beyond that, I think it's for people who don't have a car and want to get around the town in which they live. And yes, I am not going to take advantage of this because even though I'm in Los Angeles where Waymo operates, there's no Waymo service area in my neighborhood, but there is where you are, Sarah. Yeah. And if you didn't have a car, even though you have a car, you've taken Waymo a few times. Imagine if you didn't have a car, you'd probably be like, ooh, $10 a month? Yeah, sure. Okay. Unlimited rides. I could do that.
Well, and, and compare that to, well, what are my other options? Getting a traditional Uber with a human driver, which, I've done a million times kind of thing, or renting a car. That is something that people do. Sometimes people do a car rental for 6 months to a year, just for various reasons. Doesn't have to be just because you're on vacation type thing. I think the Waymo situation would make a lot of sense for me. Again, depends because Waymo operates in my area and it goes a lot of places that I'm going regularly. I can't go to your house, Tom. So that's definitely
but that's not because of Waymo. That's just because you're banned from my house.
Right. I wasn't going to say that, but okay.
When I initially heard this story, I thought that wow, okay, this is really going to support people who don't drive. And then I have to think about, wait a minute, this is Waymo, this is not Uber or Lyft. But I do see a time when if there's enough Waymos and it's and the service allows you to literally go wherever you would want to go in a car, and you could do this, I could see a subscription being a thing that a lot of people would get. And I think that a lot of people would be literally willing to pay orders of magnitude more for it than this. I have a buddy who, who I used to work with, and they moved to New York City in Brooklyn in a brownstone, where they had to either park on the street, which is darn near impossible, or I had to pay to park in a garage like 3 blocks from where he lived. He ended up just taking his car to Long Island, where his sister sister and brother-in-law lived, and just left the car there. And when he would needed it, he'd literally take a train, go to Long Island, get his car, drive around, go back there, then take the train, come back into the city. Waymo for him would be great. And I think he'd pay $400, $500, $600 a month for it, because that's what he would pay for a car and parking and insurance and all that kind of stuff. So if it were that type of subscription where you literally are doing car replacement and you can just, pay $500, $600, $700 a month, but whenever you call it, it's, or schedule it, it's there for you within 10, 15 minutes, and you can use it to go wherever you want to go. That to me would be a service that I think a lot of people in big giant cities where this would work would use.
I also think you can't overemphasize, how, especially in a big city like Los Angeles, where you might be in a car for an hour plus going from point A to point B, how helpful that can be to just do work in the back seat. Now you can do that in the back seat or even the front seat if you want to, with a human driver driving the car. But I have heard, I haven't taken Waymo more than a few times, just, kind of on a lark. But, people saying, I feel more comfortable doing my stuff. Maybe I have to take a phone call, and I'm at work. I'm basically sitting in the back of a car, but I'm at work, and maybe there is sensitive information, and it just feels better to kind of have this little pod where, they have cameras and microphones, don't get me wrong, with Waymo, but it feels like you're alone.
Yeah, that's more private. Let's not lose sight of the fact that this $10 to $30 service isn't a service. It's a survey question of, if you got some perks and discounts, would you pay for this? Similar to what you were mentioning, Sarah, Uber One and Lyft Pink and all of that. This isn't yet a unlimited rides for a monthly fee, and it might not even become a service. They're doing a survey to find out how much would people pay for it and what are they interested in.
And again, when I say a lot of Waymos are in my neighborhood, I think you would be shocked to see how many Waymos are just in my neighborhood. They really are. It's where you're like, oh, everybody has the new Hyundai, iconic, and everybody's got a Waymo now. Oh, but there's no one in that car, or there's only someone sitting in the back.
I was going to say, how often do you see a passenger, and how often do you see them just empty?
What I have noticed recently is I see them empty and they're parked. And the first time I was actually leaving a friend's house, and I was like, "What's that Waymo doing? Where's the person who got the Waymo?" And I kind of sat out there for a while, and then I was like, "Well, wait a second. If you don't have a rider, of course, it makes more sense to find a safe place to park and just wait for somebody to then summon you again, rather than be on the road and contribute to traffic."
I'm sure Waymo has an algorithm that says, the most likely next ride will come from this area. Go find a parking place near there.
Yeah, and just idle there. You can't miss the Waymo. They've got all their cameras spinning up top. You know when you see them. But I will say, for something like Uber One, which I actually do pay for, but it was actually by accident. At some point, I don't even know when, it was around the holidays, I was ordering a lot of food, getting a lot of ramen, and I inadvertently signed up for Uber One. So then I got charged $10, $10 a month. And I said to the company, I didn't do this. If I did, I didn't mean it, please refund me. And they were like, cool, sure. But then I still was subscribed to Uber One. Which that's a problem on Uber's side, but
they forgot to cancel it.
They did refund me $10.
Yeah, they just forgot to cancel the service.
Right? Yeah. So I was still, but then I was like, it actually works. It actually works pretty well. You have to be, and in my case, I'm almost never taking rides, but I am ordering food. So, if you order food more than like 4 times a month, so let's call it once a week, you're just saying like, let's do pizza, let's do ramen, let's do whatever. It actually works out in your favor, but everybody's different.
Yeah, it seems to me like if, you just got to do the math. It's a math problem. If I pay for this membership, how much am I saving by using the membership as compared to if I did not have the membership? And if the numbers, if you're going to, like, Sarah, you're going to, eat out, 4 times a month, it makes sense for you to have the membership.
And what
if it
Uber
doesn't,
gets,
then it doesn't.
Even if you are now paying Uber less because you're getting these free deliveries, essentially, Uber, it's worth it to Uber or any subscription service because it keeps you as a customer, right? Instead of using DoorDash, you're going to use Uber because you're like, well, I get free delivery from Uber. So, and they're making other fees off of what you order. So it's a win for everybody.
I mean, they're not reinventing the game of like, hey, do you want a couple other sushi rolls? If so,
we'll
give you like $5 off your next order. I'm like, okay. Yeah. Let me overeat tonight. So it'll be interesting. And again, the Waymo situation it's gotten to the point where at first I was like, hey, Waymo. And now I'm like, Waymos are on the freeway. Hope they know what they're doing. But you could say that about any human as well. All right, Rob, it looks like Fiverr wants gig workers to train AI on their work. Some people might say terrible idea, but what do you think?
Well, it might be a smart idea for Fiverr. Honestly, I'm not sure for gig workers, but it absolutely could be. At an event on Tuesday, Fiverr unveiled new initiatives to attract gig workers to its platform and provide them with generative AI tools, including a program allowing freelancers in voiceover, graphic design, and related fields to train AI on their work and charge customers for access. Fiverr CEO Micah Kaufman framed the move as a way to ensure freelancers receive proper credit and compensation while gaining a powerful tool to scale their work, emphasizing that the goal is to make them, quote, irreplaceable, not obsolete, end quote, and keep creators at the heart of the creative economy. So the first question I have is like, is it really though? I'm not sure. I don't want to just poo-poo this right off the bat, but my spidey senses are tingling because I've done a bit of voiceover work before in the past. And if a customer could use AI to create voiceover in my style, but not actually use me to do it, isn't that replacing me? I don't know how I'd feel about that, even if I am making a few points, off the back end. So like I said, I'm not certain how I feel about this yet. I'm completely open for someone to tell me what my opinion is.
Let me take a stab. I'm not even sure what my opinion is, but I do think that there's a lot of gut reactions and emotional reactions to this because the narrative out there is always AI is taking our jobs, companies are training off our intellectual property without our permission, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? Yeah, exactly. Like that's the overriding conversation. And so people are immediately going to see a headline here and jump to the conclusion that's what's going on. But I think it's worth looking at it a little closely. Think of it this way, Rob. You're a voiceover actor on Fiverr, and you can charge $20 per voiceover session, and you have to give $5 of that to Fiverr, right? That's just the way it works. So you're always giving a cut to Fiverr. People say that's too much. Now you can train your own model. It's under your control. Fiverr says they are not training their models. This is just for you. Only you can offer it. Nobody else can use your model. And you can say, look, if you don't want to pay $20 for my actual voice work, what if you pay $5 for the AI version of my voice work? And you get suddenly 30 people doing it, whereas before you got maybe 2 or 3 doing it. Mm-hmm. You may end up making more money. You still have to give Fiverr a cut, sure, but you had to give Fiverr a cut anyway. And now more people are using your voice. You become more well-known and you're making more money.
Anyone have a rebuttal? Tom's.
No, that's a good argument.
Sounds pretty good right now.
I'm like laying it out there as a potential, like, I'm sure that's the argument Fiverr's making. But I tried to poke holes in this as I was looking at it. I'm like, they're not trying to take your data. They're not trying to take all the money. They always take a cut. That's their whole platform, but they're not doing anything that they normally don't do. I know some people just don't like the idea of AI, and I think that's valid in this case. But beyond that, I don't know that it's actually putting the artist in control of their own tool there.
So let me give you this. So here's something that I would do. Let's say that I created like podcast artwork.
Okay.
And where I would feel comfortable using AI is that if not necessarily Fiverr, but if I were to go to something that is not Fiverr, where I basically just want to load up my 500 most recent podcast covers that I've created. And I put that into a system to where now, like, I have a style, so it understands what my style is. And if someone were to come to me and say, hey, I want podcast artwork for this new show that I'm doing about monster trucks and this, that, and the other. And I can then go to my own AI, type in, this is what my customer wants, and it gives me a representation based off of my style. To me, I would be down for that because my customer isn't seeing that. I'm seeing it to give me inspiration for what I'm going to ultimately do for the customer. I think where I have a little bit of consternation is that, well, with Fiverr, it could be the customer actually typing in and getting the work back. And if what they get from the AI is good enough, they just buy that. Now, once again, I'm getting a cut, but I am removed from the situation as far as I only trained the AI. I didn't actually get to talk with that customer. I didn't get to give them additional ideas. I don't, I'm not an artist. I don't claim to be one. So I don't know how an artist would feel about that, but I feel a little bit more comfortable if I have control. If the customer can't see the AI output, they can, only I can, and then can use it. That I feel comfortable with. I don't know that I feel comfortable about a customer actually going and using my trained data to just create stuff on their own. Like
if you want artistic control, this is not for you.
This turns into almost a conversation that we often have as podcasters about, like, who can advertise on our podcast. If somebody wants to pay, then that's great in theory. But if it's not the right advertiser, it rubs everybody the wrong way. It's not the right fit. And I am definitely not a graphic designer, but I do a lot of voice work. And that would be the only place where I would say, there's going to have to be some sort of conversation, and maybe it's case by case, where if someone wants to use my voice, I don't know why they would, nails on a chalkboard, but let's say they do. If they want to use it for a podcast or otherwise, audiobook or something that I don't personally agree with, I can, then you have to kind of do the whole like, oh, I stay out of it completely. I don't know. Or no, I have to either approve or disapprove all of the stuff. So I think that's a gray area that would give me pause.
Yeah. And there may be a solution to that I haven't looked at Fiverr's offering close enough to find, but that is the one I think fair objection is somebody may not want to give up that control and that relationship, even though people can take art that they create out of a model and then go back to the original artist and say, hey, I want some revisions, and get the human, and then you pay more for that. But artists don't have to do this either. Fiverr isn't saying, and now everybody has to do it. It's totally optional. And you can stop doing it. If you start it and then you're like, you know what, I don't like it, you can pull it back.
Honestly, this just sort of reminds me when you go to the supermarket bakery and they have those pre-made birthday cakes that look not good enough, but you can actually spend more if you want something very custom to what your needs are. And I think what this allows an artist to do is to create a bigger footprint. So you can have, say, like if you trained your model on a specific facet of your thumbnail artwork, right? You do caricatures, but you also do more realistic stuff, but you don't train it on that. You train it on one thing. You give people a taste of, if you can't afford a lot, go ahead, use it. I get a cut. But if you want something very special, I mean, you would contact me directly and say, Rob, I need an artwork that features my family because this is a family podcast, but do it in a style that's more like Norman Rockwell and less, Sunday Funny Papers kind of thing. And I think
also, this is Fiverr. Right? This is not selling your own art on your own site. This is like, what do you got? I'll make it for $5. You know,
this is almost like, I've always kind of felt that Fiverr is more like busking than it was like an actual gig.
This is like having a chatbot set up in your busking spot that will take requests.
Fiverr's they've got some work on there and they're going to have to do, because I guarantee you people are going to try to scam the system. They're going to go try to get some white label artwork and load that up and then just have a bot to where they literally did nothing but buy someone else's work, pass it off as their own, put it in Fiverr. So Fiverr's going to have to be really good with identifying that. They
are starting this with a limited number of people, so that's a good way to get your toe, dip your toe into it. But they're going to have to figure out how to catch the folks who try to do that. And they can, but
have you been on Etsy or things like that where people literally just rip off other people's
designs?
Go beyond Etsy.
Have you been into the world?
Yeah, people are going to people.
Yeah, definitely. Well, people, what do you want to hear us people talk about on this People Show? One way to let us know is our subreddit. It's filled with people. Go submit stories and vote on them at reddit.com/r/Daily Tech News Show.
I don't know how much of a people you sounded like just now, Tom. Now
I am
suspicious.
totally a person.
Are you a people?
People.
Well, please show me which photos are of bicycles in this CAPTCHA.
I can't. I can't do that. I'm sorry. I'm not a person.
All right. Well, maybe you can. Tell us a little bit more about this Bloomberg story that says Spotify wants to raise its prices. People say boo to that, but also its audio quality. So what's the scoop?
Yeah, Bloomberg sources say they seem pretty confident because they've got two people talking off the record that Spotify is going to launch an audio quality tier. Remember, they promised hi-fi back in 2021. This would be that. It would be $6 a month. And along with the higher audio quality, with your $6 a month extra, you would get remixing tools, which would use some generative models to let you remix tracks, maybe combine tracks from artists and stuff like that. It's kind of fun. And concert ticket access. So things like early pre-sale to tickets if you're on this tier for your favorite artist. Potential VIP seats or special seats that are reserved if you're a member of this tier, that kind of stuff. And it got me thinking, it's smart for these music services to start leaning into what music super fans want, right? They all play music, and largely speaking these days, they all have pretty similar catalogs. What, if anything, though, do we want from our music apps? Sarah, is there anything you've been thinking of where you're like, man, I really wish my app did this? And I know you don't use Spotify, but Apple Music, whatever. Like, what is it that you want music apps to do that they don't?
So yes, I use Apple Music exclusively, but I use it every day, without fail, mostly in my car. But I like the, I am a creature of habit. So there are days where I'm like, I just want to listen to that album again. I know I like the album. That's what I want to listen to. And so I have the album, not something that I've bought. It's a subscription, works great. Love the experience. But other times I'm like, what's new? What's in Apple Music Radio? What's new in, the hip hop world that I just like have no idea what's going on in, that kind of stuff. That works out really well for me. Stuff where spatial audio is something that for me is gimmicky. I know for a lot of people it's not, but besides just being like, oh yeah, wow, the audio does kind of move around a little bit. That wouldn't be something that I would ever pay more for, which I'm not, but if I ever had to, I'd be like, I don't care that much. And I also, I've got a set of AirPods, and I've got a not that great stereo system in my car, but fine. It's like anything that was supposed to be like way better than the audio that I hear right now, I don't think I would pay for it.
But what would you pay for? Is there anything where you're like, man, I wish it did this?
I don't know. I mean, if like I had exclusive access to my favorite artist, which they have tried, by the way. What was it called? Like Apple Music Connect? That was like where it was like sort of like a social network where you like
You could send messages and
yeah,
post
you
things.
become
Right.
more sort of familiar with, your favorite person. That didn't really go anywhere. I don't know what I would pay for. I mean, I guess if any service like this were to say, we're losing some deals with Universal Music Group or Sony or whatever, and would you like to have a lesser subscription? Then maybe I'd be like, oh, okay, I guess.
Okay.
But otherwise,
Yeah.
I can't think of anything I want other than what I'm getting on top of what I'm getting.
There were two kinds of groups, and it sounds like you fall into both of them. When I asked this in our Discord, one group was like, I want it to get simpler. I want it to just let me listen to the album I want to listen to. I know what I want to listen to. Just let me get to what I want to listen to faster. Mm-hmm. The other group was like, I want it to have better algorithms. I want it to suggest things to me that are closer to my appeal. I want it to just help me discover music better. Rob, do you fall into either of those camps?
No, because even though I have a Spotify family plan, I don't listen to enormous amounts of music on Spotify. I would say I probably open up Spotify maybe 3 times a week.
Where do you listen?
Usually it is listening right here where I'm sitting right now. It's usually I'm listening right in front of my computer.
Oh no, but what service do you use? I mean,
I use Spotify.
Oh, you do? Okay, you just don't listen to it.
Yeah, Spotify family plan. But here is, I really like jazz. I mean, a lot. I have, I've got vinyl, almost, I would say 80% of the vinyl that I actually have is jazz albums. And there are times when I'm on Spotify and I want to try to find something specific. It's not just, Chick Corea Spain. It's like Chick Corea Spain in 78 where he played it at this spot. And I'm looking for, just for that particular recording. And Spotify, I wouldn't say that this is often, but regularly, I just can't find what I'm looking for on Spotify. What I would pay for is the ability to, within Spotify, if I can't find what I'm looking for, it'll go out and find it for me and allow me to purchase it through Spotify. So, basically, they just become a merchant to where you go out and you make this purchase. You've already got my credit card. You already got my information. You take your 3, 4, 5%, VIG off the top or whatever it is, but you've just removed the hassle of me having to jump out of Spotify, go do a search somewhere else on the internet, find what I'm looking for, and then buy it, pull my credit card out and then buy it that way. If they could do something like that within the Spotify system, I would definitely use something like that.
I want the ability to create playlists the way a radio station creates them. That's something that I've wanted for a long time. I think I've even talked about it before, but I know smart playlists can kind of get you halfway there, but it's what I really want is to be able to say, like, these are my heavy rotation. This is my back catalog. These are the medium rotation. These are the recurrence, all of that. And nobody does that. I'd almost pay a couple of bucks extra just to have playlist management like that. No.
You can heart a song, favorite album. I mean,
that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about hearting a song or favoriting an album or even
you're
smart
talking
playlists.
about somebody curating.
I want to curate. No, I don't want them to curate it for me. I want to curate it. I want to have a heavy rotation that I determine. These are the 5 songs in heavy rotation for me right now. These are medium. These are light. These are recurrents. And then I have an old catalog and I pick what goes into them. I think everything is like, we'll decide it for you. We'll play your, favorited tracks from the past 4 months. And like you can do smart playlists like that. And I want to do the management myself and just have the playlist automatically mix them up and play them without me having to determine the order.
Well, you can also do that. I mean,
How?
You can create a playlist and then just be like, shuffle.
No. See, I want to have a heavy rotation playlist where I know like it's these 5 songs that go into heavy and those get played more often. Exactly. Yeah.
No, that makes sense.
Roger, what about you?
There's 2 things. One is if the hi-fi, the high quality audio is lossless. Like if it, I don't know if this will be, but if it is, that'd be great. The other one is I know they allow group listening where you can do a group and you can share a playlist of songs. They already do that. But I would like a feature where you could where you follow someone and it's like, Sarah, you're listening to stuff. You just kind of jump in and you sort of listen to what they're listening to. Now, they wouldn't have any control over like fast forwarding or selecting, or other than just bouncing back out and volume control. But just like, hey, I wonder what kind of mood Sarah's in, and then you just sort of listen to someone's music at the time just to get a feel. Because one of the things I used to use was a program, because I love Pandora, because it does a really good job, at least for my music, for selecting adjacent genres. But there used to be a tool that allowed you to kind of share exactly what you were listening to over, at the time, over social media. So it would say currently listening to whatever.
Yeah.
And it'd be kind of cool. Someone
You can do that in Discord now. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just can't do it on social media easily.
But if you could just tap on it, it's like, oh, I'm curious to know that artist or whatever they're listening to, and you can kind of get a feel. Because I feel like it's half like being in a house that you're sharing with roommates, and you hear the music through the door, and you just sort of put your ear up just to see what they're listening to. I don't know. Maybe it's creepy, but I've always wanted that feature.
There's a lot of those little sharing things out there. So that one seems like an easy ask for somebody to do. But I don't know if I'd pay for that.
I would say if I was paying for that, that's a feature I would want to have. That was part of
you
that
would
fee.
want it in an extra tier. Yeah. I gotcha. Well, I loved that we got so many people talking about this in the Discord. So if anybody wants to jump in on that conversation, it's still ongoing over there. But it was very much like, I just wanted to stop doing things. Let me play music, or I want discovery. I wanted to have better algorithms. So yeah,
I mean, it's I'm sort of little embarrassed for admitting this, but I know I'm not the only person who still listens to FM radio or AM radio for that matter.
No,
but,
you're far from the last. Yeah,
we've got a local station here in Los Angeles, KCRW, which is a combination of news. It's NPR news, but and a lot of music. Depending on what time of day you're listening to. And, I'm still old school in the way where I'm like, ooh, yeah, it's 9 a.m. Nice. Like, Morning Becomes Eclectic is just starting. And they play all sorts of songs that I don't know. I've never even heard of them. And I love them. And it's so good. And, do Shazam or look it up later. And, discovery is still fun.
Spotify has radio stations that emulate that. But when it's done really well, like KCRW does it really well, like there's nothing to match that.
Radio Paradise does that. It's a not subscription, but it's a listener supported radio station, and it does that really well. And it just occurred to me, it would be neat to have a feature where you could have a synthetic or a real DJ and sort of give you sort of a musical odyssey of like how one artist or one song spawned or influenced.
So like
another.
Spotify's generated DJ, but with more of a purpose versus
with more of a purpose, and then you would have a little bit of narration that explains how they're connected in a way. Like, hey, these two met up in a bar, or they met up at a concert. They played at, they collaborate. Sort of what Sirius does, but not so short. Something a little more.
That's a cool one. I like that.
Something a little more in depth.
Well, Roger, it sounds like Apple's expanding iPhone production in India. I mean, it definitely is, actually. Whether it sounds like it or not, it's definitely happening. But China may have other ideas. So let's talk about this.
Yeah, so Apple projects that production of iPhones in India, including the iPhone 16 Pro, to grow from its currently 15% of today's global production to 25% in 2027. Now, the projection is keeping with Apple's plan to diversify its production away from relying solely on China as its sort of manufacturing hub. But according to the Financial Times, China might actually be trying to throw a wrench a little bit into the works. It's making it difficult for engineers from China to travel to India to help with setting up some of these production facilities, using export controls to block the shipment of key battery technologies, as well as machinery that is used to process critical minerals used in the production of these phones, and of course warning Chinese manufacturers from establishing local production plants in India to kind of maybe if they wanted to circumvent export controls of China. I'm wondering if this is speaking to a larger sort of trend of post we're moving towards a post globalized trade regime where I mean, a lot of this sounds, what I just described, sounds a lot like what the U.S. is trying to do with AI compute devices being exported to China because they don't want China to get a leg up or be at the same stage of AI development. But what does that marketplace look like? Are we going to have different models in different regions? Something that used to happen, back in the day, but it's sort of like everyone gets the same model now. And what does that mean for tech companies? Does Apple now have to ride not only the politics in the U.S. but like geopolitical things like, well, China doesn't want this and India does want this. What do we do? How do we serve all these multiple masters without necessarily getting them aggravated at the decisions we make because we want to expand our production in India?
I mean, yes, very obviously, yes. That you're just describing the world we're living in and have been living in for the past 5 years. I would add India is doing this as well. One of the reasons that Apple is expanding its manufacturing in India is because India requires it to do so in order to sell their models in India at a normal rate without having to pay incredible tariffs. So you might say India started it, really.
And so do we... I mean, it's one of those things like, where do smaller countries do smaller countries that don't have that economic heft, do they just get whatever they get in terms of?
I mean, currently, yes.
Yeah, unfortunately for them, yeah. If you're a country that has 100 million people in it, then you have the ability to do stuff that countries that only have 35 million don't. It's just the nature of the beast. It's the bigger you are, the more weight you carry, and your voice is going to ring louder for these companies.
And it's going to raise prices for everyone. A country that thinks that it can make everything themselves is going to find that the principle of comparative advantage is still alive and well. Andrew Heaton did a great comparison of this last month on his Political Orphanage podcast. Scotland, not known for making wine, and France, not known for making wool, but they trade with each other because Scotland makes great wool and France makes great wine, and then they're both happier because of it. So you're going to run into the same thing if more of these trade barriers come. And the reason China is trying to this isn't the same as putting full-on restrictions on export. It's kind of trying to impede it, right?
Yes,
and make it a little more expensive. And without having something that India could go to the World Trade Organization and complain about, but they're trying to get back at India for, putting strict restrictions on the manufacturer of things within. The reason Apple is doing all these manufacturing in India is because India said, you have to make this stuff here in order to sell it to our populace at a reasonable price. Otherwise, we're going to slap huge tariffs on you. And China's like, oh, so you're going to try to steal our manufacturing? Well, we'll do that. And it's going to escalate, right? And the U.S. is involved with its own restrictions. So this is either going to be a big game of bluff and everybody calls their bluff at some point and lets things down, or it's going to raise prices for everyone. One good part of this that is happening despite the trade war is diversification of manufacturing bases, having manufacturing be in multiple places rather than all in one region. Although you do get some downsides to that, because if you have a lot of manufacturing concentrated, then it does lower the price of manufacturing because they can swap things around in a local area. But we could have multiple regions like that too.
Yeah, it's been a while, 2.5, 3 years, depending on your, on how you do the math. But Earth shut down a little while ago. I don't know if you guys remember that. And one of the things that came from that is that, tech companies were struggling mightily because everything shut down. And if you only made a thing in one place and that place is shut down, then no one gets the thing that's made in that place. Yep. So if you diversify, you at least, well, if there's a shutdown in this country, but there's not one here, we maybe can rejigger some things to where we're not just not shipping stuff any longer. And so I think that's a big part of this for Apple as well. Clearly, the fact that India said you must do this if you want to sell phones here cheaply, was a part of it. But the other part is that, well, if we're doing it here, we think that, well, India and China are both in Asia, but they're not close to each other. They are very far from
Asia's
each other.
Very big.
Although they are
very big
continent.
India
and China share a border. Yeah.
Yes. Where the devices are made, they're not next to each other. So, so the thing is that, well, if there's a problem here with distribution, then maybe there won't be a problem there, and that is better ultimately for Apple. So that is a big part of it, and I don't think that Apple's going to stop with that. I think you're going to see stuff in Vietnam. You're going to see stuff, maybe in Pakistan. I think you're going to see, distribution is going to start happening everywhere. Yeah. We're trying to bring some of the stuff back here. So I think that's part of this as well. Yeah. And I don't want to say trade war. I don't know that this has escalated to full on trade war, but China isn't feeling what India is doing right now. They are definitely in their fields about it. They feel some kind of way, and this is a way to kind of get back.
Put it this way, Foxconn's got plants in Brazil and Vietnam, and China does not appear to be targeting those. It's targeting the ones in India.
Right.
Well, as we move into news around the world, let's check out the mailbag.
Indeed. Andrew in Montreal wrote in about Amazon pulling out of its warehouse distribution in Quebec. My Monday order still isn't out for delivery and no estimation date. One snow day yesterday. I checked my wish list today. All items expected delivery dates are Thursday or Friday with 2-day prime delivery. Spoiler alert, he wrote this more than 2 days away from Thursday. He said, union breaking is going to be expensive. People are claiming they have canceled Prime or are going to a brick and mortar store to get stuff quicker. Definitely having an effect. Thanks for the boots on the ground report, Andrew. Although a lot of times people say they cancel things and they don't. I mean, we've seen that with Netflix raising their prices. Everyone say, I'm canceling Netflix, but then they have a rise in subscribers. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. I mean, I've definitely been a person, I've said this on the show, I was a little late to the Amazon game. I mean, I knew what it was. I knew how to order things on Amazon, but I would just still go to my local pet store to buy cat food. I would still, go to my corner store to buy Gatorade. I just kind of, I had my thing. Then I was like, oh yeah, Amazon is just, Amazon, and I'm a Prime subscriber now. Way more convenient. At the point that it becomes not way more convenient, that's not what I want to do necessarily. That's just my best option and often the cheapest, although not always. So
I know a few people who have canceled Amazon, and it wasn't they were trying to make some stand against Amazon. It was just the fact that they weren't getting stuff same day or next day, but they could from Walmart.com. They could from Target.com. So it's kind of like, well, why am I paying all this extra money to Amazon if I can just go to Target.com and get the same thing and get it as quick or in some cases even more quickly? So I think that's a part of it. Tom, I think you're absolutely right. People say they're going to quit and they don't necessarily, but if they start to see, well, wait a minute, it's more expensive for me to use Amazon than it is to use these other platforms, that's when the decision might actually get made.
Yeah. I think time is, like Sarah was saying, time is big of, if not a bigger deal than the cost, right? You may pay an extra $1 with Amazon because you get it today, but if you're not going to get it for 3 or 4 days, then you're not going to pay the extra $1. That's for sure.
I mean, even in my neighborhood where we don't, the Amazon delivery drivers, they abound. But even then, sometimes I drive down to my local Target because I'm like, I just need this thing right now.
Yeah, you just want to get your hands on it.
It's just easier. It's not that far. It just makes more sense, and then I feel more confident that I'm getting the thing that I want to get.
It depends on convenience too. If it's like a tool, like something I would get at a hardware store, I oftentimes prefer going to the hardware store because then I can ask them very specific questions about the use of the tool. Something that I can ask the question into the little Amazon page, but it depends on who responds. And
now you can ask ChatGPT, and it'll answer.
But I prefer the guy who's been turning a wrench, at least for some part of their lives.
Oh, they trained on that guy.
And and it's weird because sometimes it's actually more inconvenient to use Amazon because you got to wait or whatever. And even if I have to do it the next day and the delivery happens the next day, I have to be in that window just so a porch pirate doesn't grab my stuff.
Oh, I've definitely.
That's a huge part of the issue with me. Like if something is my Mac Mini delivery back in November, for example, it was supposed to be at a certain time, supposed to be on a certain day. The delivery date changed. I wasn't here. I'm flipping out about the whole thing.
That's the worst.
I should have just gone to the store and bought it myself, picked it up.
Because then you have confidence, like, I have it. I don't have to worry about leaving it on the steps, and then someone just deciding to, gift themselves someone else's laptop.
Well, thanks to Andrew in Montreal for the email. And also remember, if you'd like to send in your comments, you can do so by heading over to feedback@dailytechnewsshow.com.
We take title submissions during the show. I don't know if any of you watch us live. I actually do. 108 of you watch us live. There's a little number right there. You can submit titles and vote on them at dtns.showbot.tv. The top vote getter at the moment is from Batfink 2001, Share and Share alike, spelled CHER. Because
that's a good one.
Like for music.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Share and Share. I like Howard Yermish right behind him with Waymo subscriptions.
Yep.
Gambill Data suggested Tom High Fiverr's AI haters. Yeah, because of Fiverr.
Because you're, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And GPEG84 playing off of what Rob said, the Fiverr chatbot Busker. Oh, wait, Roger, you said that.
Yes.
Yeah. People are going to people is what Rob said. That was from G. James B. suggested that. Big Game of Bluff. Zoe Brings Bacon suggested that. Unlimited rides, tips not included from G. James B. Sarah, what did we go with?
We went with the Fiverr chatbot Busker from GPEG84. Thanks to everybody for submitting. That was fun. That was fun.
Good stuff. You watched Saturday Night Live's 50th anniversary, right, Sarah?
Sure did.
Speaking of Cher.
Sure did. I watched it on Sunday. It was so fun. I mean, if you don't like SNL, I don't know how fun it would be, but boy, you had a lot of people show up, do a lot of old sketches, and I was belly laughing on my couch.
I don't think you call them cameos because they brought in a lot of the original guests that were in specific skits to come back to read.
Yeah.
But I still like the alien one. It's not Glenn Close. It's I always mistake her for Glenn Close, the actress.
Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep. They were in the they're doing the
one.
With,
the one
Kate
where they're
McKinnon.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
You're not
And
talking about Sigourney Weaver from Alien. Got it.
Oh no.
Harrelson.
Different actress.
Kate McKinnon. They're explaining their abduction.
Oh, it's
story.
hilarious. Yeah.
Hilarious.
That's one of my favorite ones.
And
It's just
I like the Black Jeopardy one where
Black Jeopardy
was good, where you had Tracy Morgan playing a character and then you had Eddie Murphy playing Tracy Morgan right next to him. That was
genius.
That was hilarious.
It was fun.
Also the when they had Tracy Morgan and Eddie Murphy doing the scared straight bit in the police office.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was good. I didn't watch it, but I've watched probably 15 clips on YouTube from it, and it was what I've seen.
It's probably
pretty good.
almost easier way to watch it. Honestly,
That's what I did.
When they went to Weekend Update, I was like, all right, so I've got my Weekend Update guests that I want, and there was one guest that I wanted really bad. He did not show, but
But
so
but Norm Macdonald is gone. He can't show up anymore.
It wasn't Norm Macdonald.
Oh, who was it?
It was Stefan.
Oh, Stefan. Yeah.
They did not bring back stuff.
Stefan
I was not
was
going to make
shown
a
on
joke
screen
about
at
Norm
one point.
Macdonald's not coming to the 50th anniversary.
How dare he?
I will say that when I was because I just watched it all on YouTube when they were reposting the clips on their YouTube channel. And I was going through when they got pics of the audience to see like who was in the audience because there was the bit between the two and what's his name from Yellowstone.
You mean Tina Fey and Amy Poehler?
No, Field of Dreams. Kevin Costner was sitting there. And I thought he was going to stand up and be part of the skit.
Oh, right. He was sitting like in between. He and Wednesday.
Wednesday Addams?
No. What's her name? Yeah, the actress that plays Wednesday Addams in the Netflix series. I can't remember.
I know you're talking about.
I only know Christina Ricci.
Is it Jenna Ortega?
Jenna Ortega. That's it.
Yeah, thanks.
That's who it
with
is.
this, but I thought he was going to be part of the skit because he pulled out his glasses and he put them on and like he was trying to read like the card, like the cue card.
Maybe it was a botched skit.
Yeah, because that was I think that was part of the bit was they had Jason Sudeikis and I can't remember who the other one was positioned with those two awkwardly in between them.
Uh-huh.
And I thought like, oh, they're gonna get it. And it's like, nothing happened.
Yeah, Kevin Costner, is he not the king of the long movie? It's like his movies are so they're good. They're like Dances with Wolves, very good. But they're just long. You are committing to 3 hours to watch Kevin Costner
with
movie.
Water Postman.
You mean Field of Dances with the Water
Field
Postman.
of Dances with Wolves.
I've had a dream to combine and edit all 4 or 5 or whatever movies into one, just Costner epic. Where it's just because they all feel the same. At like some point, they're just the same.
Yeah.
Field
was
of
the crazy
Dreams,
thing.
great movie. One of the biggest lines from that movie: "If you build it, they will come." And I say that all the time. Podcasting does not work that way. Just because you created content does not mean people are going to come and listen to it. But we're getting to the point to where I can't use that reference because people have no idea what I'm saying. Build it. What do you mean by that? If you build it, they will come.
Yeah.
What are you saying?
Well,
it's he. It's not even they. It's he will come. But still,
it kind of goes along with like, just do what you love and the money will follow. And it's like, well, that would be nice.
Well, that's how I ended up broke,
But
Sarah.
yeah,
just be consistent.
I don't know. I think it requires a little bit more work than that.
Yeah,
Listen,
it's right
I
there
mean,
with
it's a
Howdy
great place
Doody
to start.
references now.
Great place to start. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, but like, movies thrive on sort of, trite platitudes that you throw in there. Like, it sounds like an aphorism, but really when you think about it, it's just like, actually, no, I take that back. The one
Take
movie
it back.
The one line
that
from a
back.
movie that's always stuck with me is Christopher Nolan's The Dark Knight, where the character that would become Two-Face says, you either die a hero or you live long enough to become the villain. And that one was always like one of those Christopher Nolan things that you always kind of chew on for a while, like long after the movie's over. And that's
Is your takeaway that if you don't become a hero, then you become resentful?
No, if you become a heroic and you die early enough, none of your flaws will ever show up down the line for people that then turn on you. Because history is replete with things where people have adulated or celebrated individuals only to learn about their other part of their history.
Oh, I mean, social media has accelerated that process tremendously.
Exactly.
Yeah. You don't even have to wait too long.
So like I invented
15, 16
penicillin,
minutes.
and then they passed away, and then they'll always be known for making penicillin.
Yeah. You have to die a lot faster now to avoid that fate.
Right.
Sorry to be so morbid today. I don't know what got into me.
Well, listen, it's a
the 50th
Tuesday after a
anniversary.
holiday Monday. We don't know
Yeah.
where we are, what we're doing, but we do know that we have a lot of folks out there that we'd like to thank.
Yes, indeed. Thanks to everybody who watches us live on LinkedIn, on YouTube, and on Twitch. Chris Beneteau, for example, resubscribed at Tier 1 on Twitch for the 61st month, wrote Happy Taco Tuesday, beginning the week with Taco Tuesday. Wow, Chris, I totally hadn't thought about that. Thank you for the reminder. Zoe Briggs Bacon cheered us with some bits. Awk Attack followed us. Minion Monkey 5150 back at Tier 1 for the 15th month. Love the educational content. Can't get enough. Thank you, Minion Monkey. Larry in Atlanta back for the 51st month. Alpaca Weed Wacka followed us. And Nut Guy Green resubscribed yesterday with Prime for the 68th month. Also got a new subscription from Big K Dog 35. Thanks everybody for supporting us in all the many ways that you do. We got raises over the weekend on Patreon from not only Andy, but also Philippe and Burke. Thank you, Andy, Philippe, and Burke, for giving us a raise on Patreon. Thank you. It really encourages us.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
that
Thank you.
very much.
Did you know that Eileen Rivera and I host a very fun podcast every week called Apple Vision Show? I know you guys do, but how about that person listening right now who says, oh, I don't know, what's that about? It's about the iPhone, the Vision Pro, the Mac Mini, but it's also about all things Apple, not just hardware, not just software, a lifestyle slant, because we love Apple, but we also like to pick the company apart a little bit. We'd love you to have you along with us for the ride. AppleVisionShow.com is where you can subscribe. Thank you in advance. You can also watch our show, DTNS Live, is live Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Eastern. That is 2100 UTC for 20 more days until we go back to daylight savings. You can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. Back doing it all again with Scott Johnson joining us. Talk to you tomorrow.
The DTNS family of podcasts, helping each other understand.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.